This is Pop Culture Confidential, and I'm Christina Jeurling Birro. Jamie Dornan is here, one of the stars of the major Oscar contender Belfast. That's Kenneth Branagh's semi-autobiographical film about his childhood, growing up just as the Troubles, the 30-year conflict, began in Northern Ireland and violence swept through his streets. In Belfast, Jamie Dornan plays Pa, based on Kenneth Branagh's own father. For this role, Dornan returned to his hometown of Belfast after several years of conquering Hollywood. And now there's a ton of awards buzz for him in Belfast. But last year was also a roller coaster. He lost his beloved father to COVID before he got the chance to see his son play a proud Belfast father. Now, the role is based on Kenneth Branagh's father, but Dornan says he really brought a lot of his own father to the role. I got a chance to speak to Jamie Dornan about this intense year, about returning to Belfast, those Bond rumors, and so much more. Here is our conversation. Hey, Jamie Dornan, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Christina.
Your co-star and fellow Belfastian Ciarán Hinds, who like you, I believe, doesn't live in Ireland anymore, but I heard him say recently, "My soul is still Irish." Now, I was wondering, is your soul still Irish, and how?
Very firmly, yeah. I don't think anything could change that. That is, it's home. I left there last year. In fact, it was the first year I've lived longer away from Ireland than lived in it, which is a strange moment in your time. But no matter where I live, and I'm talking to someone who has a wife and 3 kids now, but we move around a lot, so we're sometimes feel very settled, and then we don't, and then we move, and it's an ever-changing landscape, and it's exciting too. But home is always Ireland, and that just won't change. That is where my heart is. That's where I feel the warmth and feel the love like nowhere else. And it's a very special place. I'm very proud to be from there.
So you were born in the early 80s, so the Troubles, the 30-year conflict was certainly a part of your childhood. Looking back now, how would you say that affected you?
Well, I've never shied away from the fact that I had a very middle-class upbringing. I would be, probably as far away from the sort of epicenter of where most of the violence was. But my dad worked right in the middle of it, and I went to school in Belfast I lived in Belfast for some of it. I was obviously born in Belfast, but I grew up 6 miles outside of Belfast, went to school in Belfast. But it's small stuff that now, when I think back on, or I tell people, particularly Americans, I always find when you tell them that, like, you used to have plans to go on a Saturday into town to meet your friends, and every other Saturday there was a bomb scare, so you couldn't then make your plans. You say that very casually because that was the crack at home, but actually it's mental. That's mad. And now I haven't been a father myself. The idea from, our eldest is 8. You're only talking 2 or 3 years away from when we would have been doing those trips, and your friends would call you on the landline, obviously before mobile phones, and be like, "Oh, did you hear the news? Yeah, there's been a bomb scare." Like, the idea of potentiality of putting my kid in a situation like that is insanity to me. It's lunacy. So it's stuff like that you took for granted at the time, that affected every single person, in that part of the world, no matter where you lived, was crazy. I was born into a conflict society, and then I still call that place home, where it's a post-conflict society that is still very traumatized by what went on for 30 years. There is now a whole generation that were born after 1998 that are only hearing secondhand stories of what that was like, and you have a lot of hope in those people that the staunch voices of the past are hopefully being quietened now, and we can move away from it. But the thing that needs to change in Northern Ireland is integration of schools. In primary schools in Northern Ireland, there's still less than 7% that are integrated. That's
Oh, wow.
absolutely mad. You're
Yes.
talking kids who are from the same postcode as each other, but are being divided because of their religion from 4 years old. That needs to change. They're not going to advance without that changing.
For Mr. Branagh, or Sir Branagh, of course, to see parts of his father, his family come alive through you must have been pretty incredible. How did you see that effect?
Well, as you can imagine, it was hugely cathartic for Ken. That's what he will want me to, and we've always called him.
We could get the Sir.
He's not that guy, thankfully. I couldn't work with whoever that guy is who makes you call them sir. It's pathetic. So yeah, he, you know, this is, yeah, you say it's semi-autobiographical, but you know, it's largely based on events that really happened to him. I'd say probably about 90% of it happened to him. Certainly all the key turning points in the movie and the big dramatic parts of the movie were very truthful to what he went through. And for him to have to relive that with the sort of level of authenticity that is created on a set like that, difficult. There were tears, you know, there was. I'm sure he'd probably admit that to you himself. You know, it was some very heavy moments, and you know, he will definitely never do a more personal film than this, but it's personal for so many of us. You know, outside of Judi Dench, the whole core of the main cast is Irish, and so for many of us, I feel like we're telling our story too. And we'll excuse Judi Dench because she's Judi Dench, and she'll be excused.
She's always
anything.
excused.
Yeah, she's forever excused. So yeah, there's definitely some highly emotional moments for Ken, and we had his back, you know, and he had our back for the entirety of the shoot.
I'm very sorry to read about your father who passed recently. My
Thank you.
condolences. You said such beautiful things about him. Did you bring things into this father from your father?
Definitely, yeah. You know, there's a goodness and a strength, a resilience, and a humour, particularly humour, to men from Belfast that I understand. I understand. Hopefully, because some of those I've garnered for myself or I've been passed down, but mainly because my dad was the embodiment of all of those things. I've never in my life heard someone say a bad word about my dad. We're very open and honest people in Ireland. So if someone had a bad word to say about someone related to you, you would.
They
know
would have
about
said
it. I would have heard it. I would have heard it. There's a lot of that, his innate goodness and his sort of importance of family first that was on the page already, thankfully, with what Ken had written, that I was able to implement into Pa, yeah.
Did he get a chance to see the film?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know, at least he knew I was doing it. We always had this joke with Dad about like how he never really knew any of my co-stars. And even like I've been lucky. I've worked with some great. He knew Christopher Walken played my dad a couple of years ago, and Dad obviously knew who Christopher Walken was, so that was exciting. But you know, we're talking about some of the younger actors, the great younger actors I've worked with. He wouldn't have known, so it was so fun to be able to say Judi Dench is playing my mother and Ciarán Hinds is playing my dad, because you know they're household names, particularly in Belfast, you know, with Ciarán. And so yeah, so it gives me some hope that he, you know, and comfort that he knew that I was doing it. And you know, he didn't die until March last year. We made the movie by then, but no, he didn't get a chance to see it, sadly.
So this Oscar season has been coming up is quite a year for musicals. All the big names. You have Spielberg, you have Lin-Manuel Miranda, your old friend or your good friend Andrew Garfield and Tick Tick Boom. But I would venture to say that the two best musical numbers have been Jamie Dornan, and that's Belfast, Everlasting Love, and Seagulls in the Hand, Can You Hear My Prayer from Barb and Star. Now, how did you prepare for this new era of your career?
Listen, I don't know what happened there. You know, I didn't go seeking that out. You know, they just happened to be a couple of roles I did that had musical numbers in them. I have to say, with Barb and Star, I didn't even realize. Like, I remember getting out to Mexico and them saying, "So listen, you've got this dance rehearsal. We're picking you up at 8 a.m. tomorrow." And I said, "What do you mean? When am I dancing? And what? There's no dancing in it." And in the script, it was literally like one line or two lines of stage direction saying like Edgar then performs an emotional dance a la flash dance or something like that. That's all it said. And I just glossed over that, obviously, when I read the script, and then found out that
until the day.
Yeah, it was a bit of a number, and I had like proper dance rehearsals for it and singing, and at the obviously then record the track. I did all that after, so when I'm dancing and miming, it's to a professional singer who they had do it originally. Similar to With Everlasting Love, I just had to lip sync to the original, and then we recorded my vocal after. So yeah, I don't know, it's mad, and I've sung in a few things recently, but yeah, I think I'm going to take a wee break from that now because it's too much.
Well, I love how both you and Ken, you can do everything. You can go from, 50 Shades and a musical number to Belfast and Falling, and he can go from Shakespeare to Thor. You have that thing in. It's an Irish thing, maybe.
Well, I think that's what it's about. Like, there's no point in getting yourself into this industry if you don't want to mix it up. And I've said this many times before. If I was sat here talking to the likes of yourself with action movie after action movie after action movie, I don't care how much money you're paying me, I would be so dissatisfied and bored. So I feel very fortunate that I've been given the opportunity to explore lots of different genres in my career to date, and I plan to do much more of that. Does that mean I won't do an action movie? No, of course, but like I wouldn't do every one like that because I'd just be bored to tears.
Are you going to do Bond? Because that's what everyone's saying.
You tell me, I don't know. Again, it's fun to be in those conversations, but like, okay. I always say Bond is anyone who's got a hit TV show or a hit movie out, and at the moment I have both. That's why I'm in the conversation at the moment, strictly that.
Well, recently Belfast premiered back home in November to a hometown crowd. What was that like? You've also said Irish aren't really comfortable with success. So what was that like to come there humbly?
It was truly one of the most special nights of my life. I'll never forget it, 4th of November 2021. I was riddled with anxiety, fear, couldn't talk, had my whole family around in my hotel room before, and I couldn't even have a drink, or I find it really hard to talk. I just felt so physically sick. Oh. I often feel a wee bit sick before nights like that anyway, but this was something totally different that I'd never experienced before. And I think the first words I said for about an hour and a half were on the red carpet, and I could barely talk because I hadn't used my voice at all. But it was such a palpable sense of appreciation of the movie that night, and watching it with a home crowd, knowing how much that movie will have meant to every single person, of all 1,500 people in the Waterfront Hall in this massive space in Belfast, was just monumental. And it's so weird because that feels like a while ago now, and it's only coming out in the UK and Ireland now this weekend. And I'm so excited now that beyond that 1,500 people, everyone else gets to see it there now, and hopefully enjoy it as much as they did that night, because it was special. And I think all of us, despite being Irish and despite not really allowing ourselves to enjoy success, I think for that night only, we reveled in it.
That's wonderful. So as we're all going through a collective trauma with this pandemic, and I was wondering, to go back to the beginning of our conversation, the trauma that, the Irish went through for so many years, is there anything we can learn from that, or you feel that you've learned from that with what we're all going through now?
Well, I think the beginning of the movie is important to answer that question. You see Belfast in all its vibrancy and all its colour, modern day Belfast, proper cosmopolitan city, 3 Michelin-star restaurants, unbelievable pubs, but still that sense of warmth from the people. There's hope. That's what we're absolutely fucked if we don't have hope in every facet of life, and at least less so, I'd say, in the States. The States have a very different take on COVID to Europeans. But they're 3 or 4 weeks behind in terms of our friend Omicron. But there's a lot more hope now at home that we're at the right end of this fucking disaster. And all we have is that, and we can cling to that, and hopefully come back as a stronger community, worldwide community.
And the resilience of...
The resilience. I mean, Irish are the most resilient people in the world, I think, from a tyrannical British rule to famine to fucking 30-year war. we've had to get through
it.
Yeah, we've had to, and come through with a strength and use humour to help us through that. And I think that's something that runs through everyone from that island.
Mr. Dornan, they want me to wrap up. Thank you so much for this, and good luck with the movie.
Thank you so much. Thanks a million.